So I went down to 1212 North California Street here in Stockton for behavioral health services. And it's one of the holy temples for the High Seer oracles here in Stockton and San Joaquin County. They call them doctors. They're oracles. You go to them for prophecy, the future, and things that are happening that nobody else can figure out but them. But I wanted my full mental health rights too, so this is what happened. I wanted to see an oracle. I wasn't able to see one of the oracles. Unfortunately, I sat down with an apprentice. It's a mental health specialist. I sat down with an oracle apprentice. It's one of the oracle helpers. And we sat down in a room, and she asked me some questions. I explained to her everything. I said, look, I have some mental health rights so far. I have bipolarity for defending myself. This is just the translation. This is what they call all this stuff. I have physical appearance, expression, just who I am naturally. That's schizophrenia. And I have the right to report crimes. Those are called delusions. So I have those rights. Now, what I'm going for is I want my fullest privacy rights. So I have free speech rights too, because I've been arrested by SPD and also detained by them. Now, sometimes in this country, you don't get your rights until you go through something. But in California, the first thing you must go through to get those rights is mental health. So we have federal rights, but before you receive those federal rights, you have to go through mental health in the police department, in the sheriff's department. So me, I'm just a great uniter. So I'm trying to unite all these things together. So I'm going in there myself now. This is voluntary. I'm like, well then, okay, so and sometimes it takes years in a hospital to get your rights. So, I spent 11 days total in BHS, 9 days for maybe I was going too hard on them. I was calling it a mental health crime because I was civilly arrested for freedom of speech. I'm like, well, I'm going too hard on them then. I was civilly arrested for freedom of speech. They put me in 1212 BHS's crisis center, or inpatient. So I stayed there for 9 days, but they instilled it into me with chemicals. A chemical concoction made sure that I had freedom of speech. So I went back down there today and I also want Tourette's. I mean, that's part of your freedom of speech, but you need the fullest thing. Like, I need to be able to just know that I have free speech to talk whenever I want, wherever I'm at, pretty much. And there are exceptions. I mean, library, duh. I'm like, well, come on. You know what I mean. So, come on. A movie theater, come on. And then there are also laws to that too. But I want the free speech to the fullest extent, and one of those liberties is Tourette's. So I want to make sure that, well, at least the mental health translation. So I want to make sure that, I have my federal liberties, my civil liberties, which are federal, and that mental health is federal too. I want to make sure that I have my federal mental health rights, because that goes through the 10th Amendment, and that's federal. Everything's federal. It's Article 6, Section 1 Supremacy Clause. Everything has to be in pursuance of me. I'm the federal Constitution, Amendment 10, Federal Amendment 10. So I went down there for antisocial behavior, disease or disorder. I want to make sure I have my fullest privacy rights, and also Tourette's. I want to make sure that I can not get in trouble for talking or just randomly saying something at some point during the day. So I went down there and I saw one of the oracle apprentices, and I made sure that she understood completely where I stood at. I'm here for my full mental health rights. Okay. So she said, have you had any thoughts of maybe harming yourself or others? And I was like, well, being completely honest, I'm like, myself, no, never. Others, yeah, I'm like, all the time. I just want to fucking kill people. I want to destroy this place, all these people. And then I was like, she was like, well, that could be a problem. I'm like, well, it depends on, what it's for. But I said, I have the pursuit of the presidency through Chelson. He gave me that through delusions of grandeur and grandiosity. And I have my pursuit of happiness under the state constitution through Dr. Graff. He said that's only in being wrong. That's where your happiness is at. So I have all of my mental health rights. They've been endowed to me. I've had them explained to me. So I told her I'd love to be the president someday. That I said this to Chelson too, and that he gave me the delusions of grandiosity and grandos, and she thought that was good. Grandeur, excuse me. She thought that was a good thing. I was like, because I just, sometimes there's like, I'm going to nuke the whole world. If I find out, nobody wants to do this, they don't want world peace, then I'm just going to nuke everybody in the world. And she's like, well, yeah, it's probably a good idea that you're not president then. We don't want you having nukes because you think about harming other people or using nuclear weapons. You can't have nuclear weapons. And I'm like, well, every president is in possession of nuclear weapons. Those become his possessions. He is the commander-in-chief. Do you understand how serious this is? Those are his he owns those. He can get rid of those, dismantle those, or use those. Those are his. It's like having a bullet in a gun. He can go down there and punch the code in himself or call somebody else and go fire. So a president thinks about those things. He also thinks about killing people because he's a president. And he makes the decision to kill people. And we also have this right in this country through self-defense and, otherwise, as long as it's non-criminal, we have the right. But I wanted to make sure that I had these fullest rights before I become the president. I want to see, because there's no way you can disqualify me. I'm like, look, I have my full mental health rights imbued to me. I went down to BHS, the Holy Temple of the Oracles, and I got all of my rights. I can do anything I want. Nobody can touch me. I'm invincible. They look at me and go, that man is aware of all of his rights, and he has them unlike anybody else. He has schizophrenia, delusions, bipolarity. I might have Asperger's. I might have Asperger's and autism. I have privacy disorder or antisocial behavior and disease, and I have Tourette's. And I did my time. I did my time for my free speech. I did 9 days in BHS, and I took medicine. So I want people to look at me and go, he has his federal rights. He has free speech. He has privacy. He has, he's got everything. And he's got mental health rights. So when they see me and I'm doing something, or like, I just want them to know that guy's invincible. He's protected by everything. He has every federal right possible in this state. So everything you could possibly give to this guy, that guy has that. But for the presidency and for the law, I just go, yeah, I think about harming other people all the time. Now, they don't really care. Now, see, BHS, you got to find a happy medium. They don't care whether it's legal or not. They don't even investigate. They have holy oracles. So if you tell a holy oracle, you have to gain your right to self-defense. So if you tell a holy oracle that you feel like harming other people, the holy oracle will just go, well, this is some type of, you need to have inpatient treatment. We might even have to give you medicine. It doesn't matter what it's about. You could, because the way that you see, there's a happy medium. You earn your rights through mental health. But it's a little different because in federal and criminal law, you get an investigator when you report a crime. So if you're like, well, this people or this person, they keep committing crimes against me and they're doing something to me, I'm about to defend myself and I'm going to hurt this person. The Holy Oracle will go, you don't have that right. Not in mental health. So the Holy Oracle will make you earn that right. You have to first have a stay in a hospital or inpatient and take medicine. And they'll diagnose you with delusions because that's your right to report a crime to an oracle. That's the translation. So you'll have delusions. These are holy oracles or high priest. These ones are above all in this country, the holy oracles. You go through them for everything, and the PDs, but peace officers, etc., and the sheriff's department make sure that all investigations and it's really, I can just break it down to, you have to go through the oracles to gain your federal rights. So I have all of them. I have the oracle endowed rights, and I have the constitutional rights in the 27 amendments, or 1 through 10, 14, Article 4, Article 6. These are all related in Article 3, or Article 2 if I become. So, you can't have a president that thinks about using nuclear weapons. So I go, well, why doesn't California want me? Oh, then let's get rid of all of them. Well, I want world peace then. And then Facebook goes, we're banning you forever. How dare you talk about denuclearization globally and world peace? So I'm like, well, what is it that these people want? So I was okay today. I mean, they didn't endow me with my rights. I reported them and I requested the holy blessings of the oracles. I want these mental health rights. So I guess, as long as we have nuclear weapons, and until a presidential candidate comes out of the state of California, or even the potential or the aspiration, can't happen. Because, and you can't go to war. I mean, you can't, I'm like, well, then why don't they want me? Can't figure it out, but you can't go to war. The problem, you can't even think about harming anybody. You can't think about this. You can't think about wanting to harm anybody. Not even in self-defense until a holy oracle endows you with it. But then you have to serve time. So, well, see, so I'm working it out. Like I'm finding the medium, because the Ninth Amendment says that, these rights have to coexist peacefully together. You have to retain all of them. So I'm like, okay, then I got to get all these mental health rights. I have to make sure these all exist, and I have them for certain, and they're all retained. So everything's got to exist in harmony. It's like, I got to make sure I have them. Put this on record in the Holy Temple of the Oracles that I have the mental health rights here stated. So, or mental health translation that I have these federal rights and these civil liberties. So, that was just what I wanted to report. So the presidency, I mean, it's well on its way. Mental health said you can go ahead and be the president. You just have to go through some stuff first, and you got to report all these things and get your mental health rights or your federal rights through mental health translation. And so you just make sure that you're not a threat, because you could be. Sometimes, I mean, now see, the oracles in the Holy Temple, they'll deem you to be a threat to be a threat. So if you become a threat to be a threat, or a threat to make a threat, or, you might be you're threatening to make a threat. Now when you go into the Holy Oracle Temple, these things aren't acceptable until you go there, and then they'll diagnose you properly, and then you get your federal rights. So if you're a threat to be a threat, or if you can't even threaten to make a threat. If you threaten to make a threat, if you're a threat to make a threat, if you're a threat to be a threat, or if you're threatening to threaten the threat, if you're a threat to threaten, you're threatening to them. So the Holy Oracles, they have prophetic foresight, and they can see that, this guy, he's a threat to threaten, or a threat to be a threat, and this is threatening. And they'll get ahead of it, and they'll take care of you. And it's not until that happens that everything's okay. Now you have your civil liberty. So you always have to go through the Holy Temple and the oracles first. So, I mean, and I've learned, I'm like, okay, so you just have to admit it. So these guys don't die and they live eternally. So this has nothing to do with religion. And, it's not a violation of our First Amendment, not our 10th either. It's just, I want the Ninth Amendment to work together. Like, we got to have all of our rights retained. And they all are certain. So, before this thing ends, if I have to take myself there again, I will. I must have all of my rights. That's federal, anything at the state that's been passed to the 10th, including but not limited to mental health. So I need my mental health rights and my civil liberties through the Constitution, and anything that's civil in the civil code, or something that would protect me in the criminal code, or implicitly define my civil rights in the criminal code, or other places. So I want all of them. If I have to go down there again, I will see a holy oracle. I was hoping for Graf. There's Oracle Graf, Oracle Hart, Oracle Chelson, holy Oracle Cosgrove. Holy Oracle, because he lives in one of the holiest temples. He lives in a holy temple, one of the holiest temples in all of mental health. He lives in Napa. He works and lives out of Napa, so he's a. And there's Oracle Nair and Oracle Veronica. So I want to make sure they each get a mention too, because they can't go unmentioned, the holy oracles here. So that's what happened today, and I received my presidential rights. I just had to talk it out with an oracle apprentice.